Come on.
Hey everybody, welcome to Around the Piano, and thank you to 216 Creator Studios. And that opening clip, thank you, John. That checked my bucket list for my entire life. We getting to play the organ at Wrigley Field after a game, which I remember, Cardinal game, and somebody hit their last home run.
Did they have to make sure that everybody left the stadium before you played?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So that was fun. That was great. And we're going to introduce our two Cubs organists in just a minute. But first, Drew, who's our sponsor today?
Oh, man. Well, listen, first and foremost, if you like what you see, go to the old YouTube on the Google box there. Click a like, share, subscribe on the 216 Creator Studios channel. That way you can see some of our other shows. We have, at least 30 other shows now, moving into 40. And it's been exciting here. A nice little journey with Tim Paul around the piano. Sure you hit that bell because it's going to give you future notifications based on the show that you're watching today. And this episode is brought to you by Piano Trends. Hey, listen, time to get a piano. Maybe 2, maybe 5. I'm not sure. You can stack them on top of each other. It's kind of a cool thing. Have your own show. Call 216. We'll come in. We'll film it. It'd be a great opportunity. But no, all seriousness, school is coming back, Tim, and people are going to need instruments. What is the best way for them to come in, and what are some of the deals that you got going on?
That's a great question to ask this time of year because school's just around the corner, and school band is right there. They start right at the beginning of the year. We've got the rentals, no matter what the instrument. We've got it. We're going to have the best price. We're going to have the best service. We're not just saying that. We've been doing it for 34, 35 years now. So come on in. You can do it online. You don't even have to stop by the store. You can go online, rent an instrument, pick it up at the store. We'll deliver it to your house. We'll take it to the school. Whatever's needed, we'll take care of you.
No, that's awesome. So big thanks to Piano Trends for sponsoring this show. Appreciate it. What do we got today, Tim?
We got I'm so excited about this show I can hardly talk because this combines my favorite things, music and baseball. And I got my two favorite musicians here because they play organ for the Chicago Cubs.
Nice.
John Benedeck and Josh Langhoff. So they became organists actually at the very beginning of COVID. Mm-hmm. That was your first season, I think, when that happened. So tell us a little bit about your background a little bit, but first, tell us how you became Cub organist.
Oh, boy.
After Gary Pressey. Josh, want to go first?
Yeah. Sure, yeah. So I've been a church organist for a long time and pianist, accompanist, and had some friends who, when Gary retired, encouraged me to put my name in. And I didn't know how to do that. So I just sent an inquiry to someone on the Cubs masthead. And about a month later, they emailed me back asking for a resume. And so I sent in the resume. And then I got a request for a video audition. So I snuck into church when no one was there and recorded the songs that they asked for. They give you like play scenarios. What would you play in this instance? And so I did this. And then after that, at the beginning of 2020, there were a couple in-person interviews and auditions. And then we got word in March, the week that everything shut down. So, yeah.
And there you go. And John, you have a similar story.
As soon as the auditions started, it was largely the same thing, but I went to school for broadcasting, and while there, I worked for the athletic department as the PA announcer for all of these, all the sports, so basketball, baseball, football, and with the baseball games, being at Western Illinois University, it's a D1 school, but maybe 40 people come to these ball games, and me and the athletic director were on good standing. So I would ask him, like, hey, while I'm calling the game, from the booth, can I just bring a little MIDI keyboard, hook it up to GarageBand and put a P3 pass through? And he'd be like, yeah, sure. So that's actually how I got used to the rhythm of the game. Graduated, started doing freelance producing work for podcasts. And one of those was our friend Stu McVicker.
Sure.
He has this insane man cave in Lake in the Hills with millions of dollars of memorabilia that he just built for himself to have a place to watch games, and people caught on. I think Ricketts caught on way back before, I think around when he took over the team, and he said, hey, if the Cubs win the World Series, I'll bring the trophy here. And he did, and that became it started the ball rolling on these charity events he would have out of his basement, where he'd bring players and Cubs personalities and celebrities and whatever, and people paid admission to come hang out with these guys and listen to interviews and ask questions and just have a good time, and all the money he's put into his charity, and I think he's at about $1 million. He's right there.
He's
real close out of his basement.
Yeah.
He's right there. Last time I checked, and that's where I came on, is where I was in charge of recording the interviews and putting them into podcast form and putting it out there. So, in his basement, he's got a life-size Rizzo statue. He's got jerseys from every Cub ever, bobbleheads galore, photos, everything. And, the Lowry organ was a holiday from the 90s.
Right.
So 93 to 04, the organ that was there. So, and it was just kind of sitting there collecting dust. I said, hey, I've played piano since I was 6. I'll give it some noise. I hadn't really done organ before. It's kind of and it looks the same, but there's an extra element. You're kind of a one-man band. But I was like, okay, I'll turn it on, give it some noise. And someone caught me on tape, threw my hat in the ring, and that's when the ball started rolling with them. So they kind of found me. I knew there was a vacancy. I always think like, oh, there's got to be people in the wings,
Sure.
ready to take over for this storied position. And it's such a niche thing. But yeah, I think it was 5 days before the world shut down.
And then
They said, hey, you got it. And we're just like, yay. Oh,
What happens now?
yeah. And we're just kind of sitting there. And then May comes around. It's actually right on my birthday. They say, hey, we're going to do this thing where we turn the organ on for an hour on Friday afternoon for the neighborhood to hear that there's still life in Wrigley, because it was dormant and sitting there, and everybody was so bummed. We all know that was such a weird year. But that was a great time. It was
I remember the first game played during that COVID year.
In July 27, July 24, something like that. Yeah.
Nobody in the stands.
Right.
Nobody in the stands.
Continued that way throughout the season.
Yeah, the whole season was
That had to be weird, trying to pump up the crowd when there's no crowd.
But it was really valuable because we didn't know what we were doing, right? So it was really good training experience. You get some feedback from people who were sitting on the roofs.
Sure.
When they opened them up, that was so bizarre. Because then you hear the canned crowd sound, all of a sudden you hear oh, there's a person, it's a guy. It was we got this little taste of what 21 was going to be like. And
yeah. A really good chance to get the timing down and everything. Yeah.
So that's silver lining. Yeah.
Well, I remember that because I remember your father walked around the ballpark.
He did.
Wow.
He came and stood for a few hours. Because we did the anthem usually. The organists, they didn't have singers, so he stood outside and just kind of filming at random points throughout the game.
But he was proud of you because you could hear him say, "That's my son up there."
He kept telling people.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, now that you've been playing for a few years, you've developed your styles. What are your favorite songs to play? And how often do you play your favorite songs? You play your favorite songs every game, or do you spread it out? How do you decide what you're going to play? Because you do pregame, and then you've got between certain innings, and then you've got the postgame, depending on whether we win or lose.
Right. No, that's a good question. I mean, there are some of our favorites that are full length that you play in the overture for when the gates open. And I mean, I think at this point, we've got to have 300 or 400 in our repertoire where there's just a list, because you play 20 songs every game. full songs, usually 15 to 20, depending on, you're playing for an hour, divide that up into 3-4 minute songs. You're playing a lot.
Right.
And you got 4 games in a series, sometimes 3, sometimes 2, but then a homestand's got, you have played a 9-game homestand this year.
Yeah.
9 times 20.
It's a lot of songs.
It's a lot of songs. Yeah. And I mean, you're not gonna, sometimes you repeat them. Like I usually do, I have a little collection of songs after, like the day after a win that's like are themed around Let's Keep Going. Don't Stop Me Now is one of those where it's like, let's keep going, just what I needed, like stuff like this. But then like lost songs, it's like Edge of Glory, Don't Bring Me Down, like stuff like this I kind of bring back in. But like if it's a holiday or a theme day or something like that, you try to pepper in these new songs. You add up over time and you develop favorites, and favorites that you thought were your favorite go away, and you kind of learn.
It
but
changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's ditties throughout the game that I really play, and actually I think some of my favorites are ones that we played for players. And I'm excited for certain players to come back to the ballpark because I know that I get to play a certain one. I think Tommy Edmond was one of them. The wreck of the Edmond.
Yeah.
Like that's, I can't wait. Or Brandon Marsh. I played the Ides of March.
Okay.
And I'm like there's such deep, random niche cuts that I get. Like sometimes they're softballs and they're easy to catch, but sometimes you really got to think about it. I know you've had a few.
Well, Corbin Carroll was just there with the Diamondbacks, and so I would play a different Christmas Carol every time he came up. And people latch onto that.
Yeah.
One valuable thing that I learned listening to a John game is that it takes 2 repetitions of a funny song for people to catch on. The first time you play it, they're like, oh, that's nice. It sort of fades into the background. Then 3 innings later, you hear it again for the same player. You're like, oh, now there must be some connection here. And so I don't like to wear out the welcome of the walk-up songs, but at the same time, it really does take 2 times, unless it's just a different Christmas Carol every time for.
Right, and sometimes those softball ones where it's Carol, or I think Cattell Marte, you did Kettle at Teapot.
Yeah, I know
that one you could play once and maybe it'll take it in to think about it. But I remember Starlin Marte, I did When You Wish Upon a Star a couple of times. I'm thinking, man, this is really wearing out its luster. So I was thinking, what other star songs do I got? Sky Full of Stars, I think, was another one that I played. So you can, when it's something that's either graspable or has a word that could be associated with many different songs, play multiple songs.
Yeah.
But sometimes if it's a deep cut, you're like, I want to hammer this one in.
Yeah.
Play it a few times. Yeah.
Like if there's a Dylan, then you could just play a different Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Nailed it. Yeah.
You know what is cool is listening to you guys, because you probably don't get a chance to talk to each other.
We don't
that much. No.
We almost never cross paths. And it's like they just want to button the seat. So we split the season down the middle.
Yeah.
We're there opening day and a few select events. But otherwise, we're just, it's either him or I. And,
so this is nice.
It's kind of fun.
You know what I find interesting? That you are the controlling element for the mindset of the stadium, right? So, well, if you think about it,
it's a lot of pressure, guys.
Yeah, really. I was feeling good about this.
Well, it's the music. Well, tell me if I'm wrong. It's the music. If you see people start getting off their mindset of the game itself, the music comes in and grabs the attention and recreates the mindset of the game. Does it not?
One thing I've noticed, we do really have the ability to turn around crowd sentiment. Like if something happens where everyone's booing and, the crowd seems very negative, we can start in turning that around.
Right.
Be it a chant or something, one of those little clapping songs.
Correct.
So it'll just shift it from negative to positive.
Yeah, I love it.
I like to think that we're fans who cheer with the music. It's a good thing that we both enjoy the game of baseball. Otherwise, this job would be very boring.
It would be impossible.
It would literally. That's the thing. You go so far as saying that, but it really would be, because you're playing Overture. You're playing back to back to back to back to back. When the game starts, it's 10-second stuff, and then you're sitting there watching the game. You're assessing. You're thinking, and if you didn't enjoy the thinking aspect of baseball, you would be miserable, and it would translate through the keys for sure. I like to think, and I've been told this, and I kind of adopted it into this job is we're the spackle. We fill all the spaces.
Oh, wow.
There's foul balls, there's dead balls, there's the timeouts, there's sometimes where they step out of the bag or the box. Coaching visits, every time there's no clock. Now there is kind of, but like it's not timed like soccer, hockey, basketball. There's no countdown where there's anticipation. It's the pace is driven by how quick the inning goes by. If it's a 1-2-3 inning, 5 minutes, you're done. Sometimes innings can last for 15 minutes, and you are kind of holding the bricks, the players, the plays, and the crowd noises together with it. And I kind of just dismissed it, but Cherie, she was producing a game. She's one of the producers. There's Matt and then Cherie DeYoung, and she was up there, and she texted me this out of nowhere. So someone named Spackle, referring to the putty used to fill holes in small surfaces. That's good for 1, fixing problems. They are good at resolving issues or filling in the gaps. 2, versatility. They can adapt to various situations and roles as needed. 3, supportiveness. They help maintain stability and smooth out rough situations. And 4, detail oriented. I don't know about that, but they pay attention to the small details and make a difference. But like that was such an encouraging thing to read because it really exemplifies this. Otherwise, kind of you can dismiss something like Spackle as like a nickname and being funny, but I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
That was well put.
Yes, I mean, well, that's a boss.
Now, and I, Tim, I think there was a time you mentioned to me that you got tossed from a game. Let's talk about that story.
Did you do the deed?
I did the deed.
Yeah. So one thing you don't do, Tim.
Yeah, that's why they call 2 majors and a minor today.
Yeah.
Now, Quad City Cubs, back in the 70s, mid-70s, I like baseball. I get into it. Even the Cubs minor leaguers at the time. I thought, okay. So it was the top of the 9th inning, and there was a play at the plate. The umpire obviously missed the call because I obviously had a better view from the organ booth than he did standing right on the plate.
It's obvious.
It's obvious, yeah. He called him safe, which tied the game, which meant we're going to the bottom of the 9th. And would mean, okay, I get to play something between innings again. No, because the umpire because I played 3 blind mice. Yeah, and I didn't just play it. I played it with gusto.
Oh, yeah. Were the Three Stooges big at the time? Yeah.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, well, they were always big. They're still big today, right? Yeah.
I figured it would have been the Benny Hill theme song.
But that one's acceptable.
That would have been
You can play that.
Yeah.
3 blind mice just
No,
don't
it doesn't work.
I've never played it since, but
I bet management was proud.
not much sense, yeah.
I bet you the management was proud.
Oh, management actually backed me up after the game.
Really?
They bought me dinner afterwards.
Oh, well, that's nice.
If you call hot dog dinner,
Yeah.
Right.
but yeah, they said that was okay.
It was in
Gonna
their
know.
budget.
Well, there were no cell phones or anybody like that then, but the umpire turned around, he looked up at the organ booth, and he gave me the sign, so I couldn't play anymore the rest of the.
Wow.
How often have you been sent that video?
The 3 blind mice
Yeah.
video, many times.
The batter's eye of the ump doing that. People are like, you should do this. And I'm like,
no.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
I like my job.
Yeah. Working in employment is fun.
Yes.
Really fun.
So that was fun, but that's well in the past. And if there had been cell phones around, it probably would have gone viral back then. Yeah. But I think I'm one of only 2. I think I saw on the internet there was one other guy that.
Lambert Bartok.
Yes.
Oh, Lambert Bartok.
Yeah.
So my other job, I worked for the College World Series midsummer, and Lambert Bartok was the organist at Rosenblatt Stadium from 1955 to 2010.
Holy crap.
50 for any job, 55 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He died 3 years after he retired. But at some point, I think either in the 60s or 70s, there is an actual article on him playing 3 blind mice. The ump calling, the ump kicking him out, and then that very ump apologized for it. They reconciled. That ump bought him dinner. So the ump who kicked him out bought him dinner. I'll find the article.
Now, why did the ump apologize?
They're like, he's like, I overreacted. It probably was. It was. I mean, look at baseball in the 70s.
You're right.
You can have a full-out fist fight and not get
Right.
There's a video of George Brett at third.
Different world.
It was a different world. Like
Yeah.
it was a different ball game, literally. And I think he's for a college game. It wasn't the World Series, or it was a college World Series, but it wasn't like the World Series. I think the ump was like, yeah, that was probably an oversight.
Sure.
But,
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that as well. I was going to bring that up in a little bit. You are now the College World Series organist in Omaha. How did that come about?
Well, much like the job for both of us, it kind of we trip over it, or you kind of just throw it out there to see what happens. And the College World Series Incorporated, the people who organized this event, called me for, I think it was just consulting. Like, hey, our guy retired. It was at Lambert, and then a guy named Jerry Pollock, who did it for 10 years after Lambert, and then decided to call it quits. So they're looking for a guy who's like, hey, we want to find something, who's not, with all due respect, 70. And they were like, hey, because, we want him to be around for a little bit, and, let's just see what happens. I'm like, okay, well, what are you looking for? Like, well, we noticed your videos and stuff you post, and it's a little bit more, it appeals to both the traditional baseball crowd and the younger crowd who may not even be a baseball fan.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And a couple phone calls, it was more just a conversation, and I'm like, there's two of us at Wrigley. I could see if we can coordinate. I'll just come out there. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, let's see if I can give it a shot. And they're like, okay, come on out. And it went over extremely well. It's a totally different organ out there.
Yeah.
That is a 77-year-old C2.
Huh.
This thing is a workout. Tone wheels and everything. Still got the tubes. Oh, this thing's crazy. But the atmosphere it's a college game. There's there's 8 teams. All different fan base, a lot of SEC. So you can imagine that's sports in college in the South is life.
It
It is
is.
life. LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, that is life. So that translates to, I think there's 26,000 in that stadium, and it is awesome. So I've been doing that for a couple years, and until they tell me not to, I'll keep going.
Do the fan bases start like yelling at each other?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't the year before I started. The championships was Ole Miss versus Mississippi State, and standing room only, damage to property.
Whoa.
It was really like just over the threshold of bad. And then the year I started, LSU won, and it was LSU versus Florida. So two SEC teams again. That LSU's fan base is crazy, and it was the same year they won the women's championship, and then the football championship was that year. Paul Skeens was their pitcher. And then Drew, what's his name? Dylan Cruz, I think he's a national prospect. He's doing really well. Like all the superstars, and then Florida had a couple of guys. Wyatt Langford, who's a Ranger now.
Okay.
He was a third overall pick. Just all the buzz around these two teams, and it was crazy because the first game was a walk-off, tight game. Second game was the highest scoring game by one team in World Series history. I think it was 24-6. Florida won, and so it was tied, and it's a best of 3 series. So then next day they're like, oh geez, how are they going to come back from that? LSU beat them 18-6. It was the second most scored. So it was like the most, and the next day LSU took it in 3 games, 18-6. It was.
So you have to balance your clap songs between both teams.
100%. I have to be completely unbiased. The main difference was I don't play for. It is July in your June.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, is that you?
That's me.
Okay, I was gonna say. I was like, Santa?
Santa's out.
No.
I like Christmas year round,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think Hallmark's doing a thing right now.
I used to have taken out to the ball game and Go Cubs Go,
I heard
but it's really loud, so
that makes sense. Anyway, since
Did you get to play your Sound of Music song for the high scoring games there?
Yeah. 16 going on 17. Yeah. 100%. I did it for both games. I was like, yeah.
Never happens.
It's such a rare thing.
Yeah.
It's like, like it's the Stradivarius. It's so rare. No.
So hence your 9-game homestand.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, no, it was fine. And the hardest thing is when you've got a day game following a night game, and there were only a couple of those, I think. One of the games got pushed back, so I didn't even have to miss church. My church, God bless them, they love that I do this. And so they will allow me to leave early from church on select Sundays, as long as I like deputize members of the choir, guitarists to help lead the remaining songs in my absence. So that's really nice. But anyway, it went fine. I'll color code songs that I play for one team, so that I don't repeat too much for like that team to press and everything, you know.
Sure.
And then when the next team comes in, then I can start over again and play it. So yeah.
I usually do per day. So like I'll do green day 1, blue day 2, orange day 3, and then that's usually the 3-game set, and I'll erase it and neutralize it, and I'll start over for the next series. Yeah. You start to think, and you begin to catch on to the point where like you almost don't need a list in front of you, because you kind of have an idea of what song you're going to play for certain days. If it's a midweek or in the middle, you play all your middle songs, and I don't know. And we live in this constant state of riff. We'll get up to a stoplight and it's like, stop in the name of love. I go, wait, no, this is real life, John, stop. No.
But like in the car, I'm always adding stuff to my Spotify playlist that I hear on the radio. Yeah, just so I can remember to work it out and figure out how I'm going to work it into a game. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, it keeps your mind going for one
Sure.
thing. No, that's it. That's a good thing. Now, you guys work with the Cubs PA announcer, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
I know you guys both work with him.
Sweet guy.
Yeah.
And he seems like a blast. In fact, I met him in California. We went to a
You
Cubs
did?
Dodgers game. Yeah.
Oh, you're at the same time.
You were
I was supposed to
be
be
there.
with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I looked
Life
back and I
happens.
saw Jeremiah sitting, in the next section over. So we wanted
He's
to
hard to
have a
miss.
chat. Yeah, he's hard to miss.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
He is.
He wanted to know where the heck you were, though. Because I think he went to California just because.
No, he's been to every single ballpark.
Yeah.
I think he makes it a point to do like all these baseball road trips, he and his mom, and then sometimes just him. He was at Boston this year. He did the whole tour and met up with their PA person. But like he's kind of like the travel expert on all these ballparks. Like, what's the best, the food spots around? How are the tours at the given ballparks? Like the creme de la creme of the tour, Wrigley and Fenway, apparently, where like Fenway, they give you the experience in the Green Monster, and they take you out, and stuff. And Wrigley does that with their scoreboard. And like, yeah, I think some of these places are less than interesting as far as an architectural point of view, but places like Wrigley,
It's the history. It's
like
the history.
there are stories here, like Babe Ruth,
That's
Rogers
right.
Hornsby, like these people played there.
Yeah.
It's wild. They played there. But
And there's only a couple ballparks left that you mentioned. Where
There's two.
Where that
That's
is
it.
happening.
Yeah.
So, now, I know Jeremiah did the 7th inning stretch not too long ago. I think you were coming up.
both of them I played
Yeah.
for him because
Yeah.
the first one was planned. It was the UIC night, so he's a UIC alum.
Yeah.
He's kind of like their guy. And then there was I think someone canceled, and they're like, "Hey, Jeremiah, do you want to do it?" And he was this year, so we're like, "All right." So because we share the same booth, it's different when you're there's a guy 3-4 booths down.
Right.
There's a collaboration more when they're sharing the booth, so that's kind of fun.
And he did a great job.
He always does.
Because we have fun thing at home when we're watching the game. The first thing we do in the first couple of innings, Bobby and I will sit there and say, "Who's playing, John or Josh?"
Oh.
And now we're getting pretty good.
Really?
I can tell. Obviously, I recognize you a little more because I hear you more.
Yeah.
And that's it. But
Our patches are a little different. You use the
I use the jazz, yeah.
and then you just open it up entirely.
It pretty much. I turn on the strings when the Cubs are up to bat just to make it like louder.
More, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then lose them when the opposing team's up to bat.
Right on. Nice.
very nice. Yeah.
Someone earlier this year sent me, I don't know how they got it. They sent me a graphic of Gary Pressey's settings.
Oh.
All of the flutes that he uses, I think he uses the electric piano accompaniment to add that punch. And then the reverb. Didn't send me like the mixing settings or anything, but I can get it on the old one, like down to the timbre.
Yeah.
Like I was using it because the new one is up in the booth and it's a little more difficult to move around for events. So they have the one we used last year in the concourse, and I can set it up. I'm like, oh man, that is that is my childhood sound.
Uh-huh.
Like going to Wrigley in 07, 08 was, when they were pretty,
Right.
I'm like, man, that sounds like
Mm.
that. And I'm like, I really want to get that on this new one. And it's a little more difficult to dial it in because there's drawbars involved now in the deep settings. And I want to find just how, because it's one thing to have the 2-inch flute and the 2.5-inch flute, but how much of each?
Sure.
I want to
gotta balance
figure out
it.
how to dial that in. But usually I use his, and then I'll bring in strings, or for the opening fanfare, I'll flip on the theater organ
Yeah,
that
right.
they got on there. Just the big.
That's loud.
And I got to turn down the bass and the volume by one click because it redlines. It's such a rich sound, but just for the opening one. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question for both of you.
Okay.
Most memorable seventh inning stretch, and I'm not asking favorite because you could offend somebody, but your most memorable seventh inning stretch, who would it be?
It is Bill Murray. It was the first game in 2021 where we had full attendance.
Yeah.
And we did not practice beforehand, as I recall. But I remember a couple things about that. First of all, he was extremely cool. Asked if I knew how to play Chest Fever by the band, so I obliged later in the game. And also he sang in a completely different key than I started in. I always start with D.
Yeah.
He was not in D. And so I spent like a moment trying to find him. But from this, I learned a very important lesson, is that you do not try to find the singer if they are in a different key. Because I am playing for the fans. I am not playing for the singer. The singer's going to do what they do.
100%.
So just stay in
Stick to D.
Yeah, unless it's like a real singer who comes in and requests something else.
100%. So the thing I was doing, I learned very quickly, don't do that thing. Bill, yeah, I remember, because that was the same game that Rizzo had that 13.
That was insane, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that you played that game, then I played the next two.
Okay, yeah.
Because that was it was a Saturday night game. We won that, and then that last game, it was the most electric closer theater I've ever seen, because it was Kimbrel.
Okay.
They did his Sweet Child of
Yeah,
Mine,
yeah.
and it was a packed house.
Yeah.
He was coming in to get the save. We were up by, I think, 1 or 2, and he struck out the side.
Nice.
Oh, it was like, this is what this is.
Yeah.
Oh, Dirty Craig, man. Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, I was really jealous of you, man. I got Bill Murray. I'm like, that's like my guy. But it's okay. No, I've had a few that were memorable. A lot of like the good ones. I had the first time I met Bob Odenkirk. He was with Susan Tedeschi.
Okay.
I didn't expect him to be. Because it was just him on the docket. And then he came up, and around the corner was this woman. She doesn't dress like a musician.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like a blues musician, but she's got that like Melissa Etheridge like kind of rasp, and she's a really good guitarist.
Are they like friends or something?
Apparently, because he's like, hey, John, yeah, good to meet John Bob. You know my friend Susan Tedeschi, and I did like the whole, like, because the Tedeschi Trucks band is one of my favorite blues bands.
Oh, really?
Derek Trucks is, it's Clapton and him, I think, or maybe Bonamassa, like the best living guitarists of their genre.
They're pretty awesome.
Yeah, the slide guitar, like maybe Greg Allman, that was his uncle, like that's him, but he passed away, and then now it's him. It's so like seeing Susan, I'm like, oh, it's cool. And they sang it together, so that was kind of a cool memory. But when I met Paul White, who is the Big Show,
Right.
he's 7'3", 480 pounds. It's just the biggest human being I've ever seen in my life. And I mean, it's no mystery. I'm a stout folk.
That was a great picture, because you posted that.
So that was, I think that was late 21. He sat on the bench to come and rehearse, and he still had an inch or two on him.
Yeah.
Just a nice, kind person. He walked in with the lyrics.
Okay.
So when someone,
Red flag.
not red flag, just like, this probably won't go as well as some of the others, I guess, but just an absolute delightful person. It was a fun one because the crowd took over, and he just kind of was laughing through it and was having a good time.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I think those two, because Bob's done it a few times, but that first Bob Odenkirk one, I
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So you haven't had a Mike Ditka experience?
Nope.
Nope.
Not too disastrous. You had Conor McGregor, didn't you?
Did I have? And he
He had his entourage. with
he
him.
had his entourage. He did not stop in the booth. I feel like we could have worked some stuff out, you know. But
He doesn't come across as a collaborative
right,
person.
yeah. We made it through.
So neither of you had Ozzy Osbourne yet then?
No.
Probably won't.
But Cheryl Osbourne, wasn't she there?
Sharon,
Sharon?
she was with him.
Yeah.
And that video, that's one of those infamous ones because it's the Steve McMichael, it's the Ditka, it's the Ozzy.
Yeah.
The very infamous stretches.
I would say comedians tend to do really well. Have you found that?
Yeah.
They're really nice.
Jim Gaffigan was the one.
Okay.
He did really well. He had his kids with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had Craig Robinson.
Yeah. He's a musician.
He is.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I told him that as soon as he came in. He was like,
Come to.
yeah. So, and I asked him, what key do you want? As I do for all real musicians.
Sure.
And he sang it like really fast in D just to make sure he could get the high notes. And then we went through it in regular tempo. But yeah, he stopped by afterwards, fist bump. Yeah. Good guy. And and I found that with probably all comedians who have come in, Jane Lynch and John Mulaney. They just they're really nice and they do a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah, John Mulaney seems like
Well, since I accompanied somebody that neither of you guys did and you won't. I accompanied Ernie Banks.
Oh, really?
He came to Quad City Cubs. So they had him out for an event.
No way. How come I didn't know that?
You weren't born.
Well, no, we've known each other for over 10 years.
Tim is a sleeper.
I'm like,
in
tell
this
me about
industry.
He sat in the booth probably for 3 or 4 innings. Now, back then, the organ booth was in with the press box. And so he was right there. And so we talked about it ahead of time. I asked, this is what key do you want to do this in? He didn't care. He said, it's not going to make any difference whatever key you're in. So, and I don't remember what key we did it in back then, probably C or G.
Oh, that's cool.
But it was very cool.
That's special.
Yeah, that was special. So whenever you get to do something with your favorite player of all time, that's really cool.
I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, we've done so with players. Kerry Wood was one of the guys. He came up, I think, Lee Smith, Fergie, like all these kind of storied players.
Yeah. And they don't really want to practice, but they'll just poke their head in the booth to say hi. Yeah. They're really cool.
Kerry Wood, you could tell he's such a humble, quiet guy. He just wants to, when he was a pitcher, he just wanted to go do his job.
Sure.
When he threw the 20 strikeout game, he didn't even know he had 20 strikeouts.
Oh, really?
He knew he had a good game, but he didn't he's like, who's on the phone? Oh, Roger Clemens? Why? Oh, that's why. Because that he just wanted to do his job. He's that kind of person that kind of you could tell that he's not this.
He's kind of becoming that Cubs ambassador, that kind of like a Ron Santo over time. He's kind of got that vibe to him.
Yeah, I feel you.
That's right.
Cool. Just because I want to showcase some of the talent here, we got a couple video clips ready to go. And it looks like we have Josh up first. You wanna speculate a little bit about this clip before we bring it in?
Yeah, so this is the one you showed me earlier, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay, so this is by a guy. I sit in with an R&B band, not much during the baseball season, but Peter and the Versatiles, Lake County's hardest working R&B band. And I meet all these great musicians through this. And so one of the guys is Kurt Michaels. He's a local prog musician, guitarist. And so we've just had a great time backing up Peter. But yeah, he asked me if I could record a song on his new album. And so one of my practice days when I was in the booth, I recorded this song of his. So you got a kick out of it.
Let's bring the clip in. Wow, that's awesome. You got
That's nice.
you got some skills there, my friend.
Oh, thanks.
That's a beauty.
So does Kurt Michaels.
Rocking it.
And so, John, you just sent me a clip too here. Why don't you go ahead and give us a little feed on that before we break?
Yeah, I mean, much less refined, obviously. This is the cover of Van Halen. The old '84 Cubs intro had Jump playing before the game. I think it was WGN, right? That was their WGN intro. So
Yeah.
someone on socials, you're able to leave comments and say, hey, can you play this next? And I obliged and did this cover. I tried to, tease it with the actual song and then kind of come into it just to see how it lined up. And
Well, this will be very interesting. Looking forward to this here. Let's see. You got your eardrum now. Very cool. Very cool.
that's one of my favorites to play. If you ask me of the ones to play, that one gets a really good response, and then it's just fun to play.
Yeah, I agree. The transition into that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It was so blended so well. And obviously, not your first rodeo, broadcasting, podcasting, voice announcing. I mean, you've done just a little bit of everything on that.
Yeah, it's in the production side of things at Western, the broadcast department. There's not that many people to do all the things,
Yeah.
so you're forced to do pretty much everything.
So you know the nightmares that I sit on about in this.
Yeah, I can see. I'm like, how's your ulcer? Is it good?
It's a gusher,
Yeah,
but we deal with
if you
it
just sit like this
a little
forever
bit to the side.
Yeah.
This is actually not coffee; it's Pepto-Bismol. But you guys are really fun. You know what, folks? Just don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ding that bell. 216 Creator Studios on our own YouTube channel there. We do appreciate you guys coming in today. It looks like we have a special closeout today. Is that right?
We do. We're going to surprise you guys because you guys accompany all these people during the seventh inning stretch, but nobody ever hears you sing "Take Me Out to the Ball." And you've done it to me. You've done it to me on Lifting Spirits a few times, when you come on. And so we're going to turn the tables. So we don't have an organ here, but we've got a kind of a piano.
It's a piano.
It's
table.
a piano. Yeah.
It plays.
It's
It plays.
table.
That's right.
So I'm going to accompany you guys to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Okay,
And just make sure you get some runs.
let's get some.
Right.
Just make sure you don't play Three Blind Mice.
Yeah, just don't.
We're not doing that.
I'll kick you out.
No, it won't. We would definitely won't do that. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Get out. Get out.
You're fired.
Some left.
A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Oh, it's root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, we're out at the old ball game. Let's get some runs.
21 Creator Studios, Drew Cappuccino here for another round of our 18th episode of Around the Piano.
Yay.
Thanks, folks. Until next